Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, crypto traders around the world. I got some requests, and they were not unexpected. The requests are around a cryptocurrency that recently launched, and there's a couple that are either in the process of launching or recently launched. And I get requests to cover them because people appreciate my coverage, most of which you can find at cryptotalkradio.net, where you can find all our various platforms, but also on YouTube. The Libero episode is arguably the most popular episode across every platform that we have, across every part of the podcast. It's major demand. People loved it. They thought it was great. And then they thought they loved how I schooled the people who were the critics, the diehards on Titano. So there's at least an audience for this. The coverage, the neutral coverage, that there's no shilling. We cover it straight down the middle, and we invite the tokens that want the smoke to come and talk it out, and none of them want that smoke. We understand. A lot of them they don't want the smoke. So we don't press it. We just put the invitation out there, and hopefully they will come back and speak to us. But we got some requests for another token that we're not going to do any coverage on, at least at this point. We may consider doing it in the future, but as it stands right now, there's no plan to cover it, that being Terareum. And in summary, the reason that I'm hesitant to cover Terareum, I want to be clear and transparent about why I'm not going to cover it now. Terareum has, in its terms, you look at the site and it's all clean, but in its terms and conditions, there's a line in there, and it's a couple sentences, but there's a specific line that I'm targeting. If you go back to cryptotalkradio.net, and we'll even share a snippet of that episode, but I do encourage you to listen to the whole episode in its entirety. We covered a token way back in late December called Made a Bull Run. Made a Bull Run had a lot of hype at the time. It was jumping like crazy. It had an amazing active community. They were all over it. Of course, it's telescam, but the point is, it had an amazing active community. They were on Twitter. They're doing all this stuff, and it was at the forefront of everybody's money spend. People were all over this because at the time, if you remember late December, we didn't have a lot of tokens that were really thriving. Most of them were struggling. Rich Quack was thriving and a few select others, but generally speaking, everything was down. So it was unexpected to see this Made a Bull Run. And I took a look at it and did fundamental analysis. And when I saw what was going on, I actively didn't recommend that anybody buy into the project, primarily, not exclusively, but primarily because of a line that I saw in their white paper that really, frankly, pissed me off. And I see similar verbiage in Terareum's white paper, and it is the reason that I'm choosing not to invest in Terareum, because if you didn't know, if you don't know what I'm talking about when I say Made a Bull Run, rug pulled. It had locked liquidity. It had everything looking fundamentally sound. It was growing like crazy, and then it eventually rug pulled. And you're like, well, if it was locked liquidity, how could it have rug pulled? That's the question, isn't it? The reason is because the way locking works. And I said before on previous episodes that even if you have locked liquidity, it doesn't really matter. Even if you have renounced ownership, it doesn't really matter, because you can always build functions in the contract to get around these limitations. Or you can exploit buys and sells and that sort of stuff. So there's ways that you can get around it. And so I think that people didn't really understand. They didn't really understand how that all works. So as I'm watching this, I'm saying, okay, there's a problem here. I understand what the heck's going on. I see that this is going to be an issue. I see that this is going to be a major problem. And I don't really have a full appreciation or understanding about what this really means. When I looked at the line, and it's on the thumbnail, but I'm going to also dig a little bit deeper into it. But when I looked at the line, it tells me that they are trying to absolve themselves of all risk. They're trying to say, you know what? We're not at any risk if you lose money. We're not at any risk and to some credit, when it's a cryptocurrency, there is some absolution of risk just by virtue of the fact that it's your choice to invest. But you can't say certain things. You can't say that it's not an investment. It's an investment. A definition of an investment is I'm giving you money under the expectation of a growth of value. That's the simple definition of an investment. And value doesn't necessarily mean fiat. It just means value of some sort. There's an expectation of increase. Otherwise, I wouldn't give you the money. If you were to invest, let's say, into a nonprofit, the value might be that they solved world hunger, or whatever that is. You have an expectation of some value in return for money I gave you, and it's almost always money I gave you. There's an expectation of increase of value. That's an investment by definition. Every cryptocurrency, because they're pegged to fiat, is an investment at the core. So when I see lines like I saw in Meta Bull Run and lines I see in Terrarium's white paper, it tells me you guys are trying to dust your hands of this, bro, and that's not going to work because I realize no, it is an investment. You will not tell me it's not an investment, and I will not agree to your term telling me that it's not an investment because I know it's an investment because I give you money for it. I have not invested in Terrarium. I didn't invest in Meta Bull Run for the same reason. When you have a token developer that tells you that your money is basically nothing, it's basically a waste, it's basically throwaway. No, I find that unacceptable, unethical, and almost illegal in some forms. Because if they take that money, and they even go, Terrarium is even worse. They say, we're not guaranteeing any liquidity. No, that's not acceptable. They can say we can't guarantee volume because that's outside of their control. But liquidity is within their control. Even if there's no volume or no active volume or not significant volume, there always has to be liquidity because you would have had to put liquidity into the thing to start with the project, and you have to have liquidity in there to support trade. So if you're telling me you won't guarantee liquidity availability, that means, well, we got hacked, we're done, or that, we just yanked it and who had, too bad, so sad. No. That's not going to work. And so I'm not going to cover Terrarium today because there's a high risk red flag to me when you tell me that the money I give you is not an investment. It's already at the point where you're, no, persona non grata. So later, I might reconsider. I need to see more from them. If they like to come on the show and talk to me, I'm happy to have them, and I will hit them with hard questions to explain that because it's not true, especially in the United States. I can't speak for other countries, but in the United States, we know it's not true. We know they're investments. It's stupid to not call it an investment. So there's, from my angle, not enough here for me to advocate it, and thus I don't want to do full coverage until that's resolved. That is a gap that I will not support any other coverage until we resolve that, which is easy. Get rid of that verbiage because you can't support that, at least in the United States, with a straight face. I know there's people, very notable people, who have bought into the project and they like the project and they did the pre-sale and all that stuff. I'm saying from my perspective and my angle, and you can make up your own mind however you choose, that line, which is on the thumbnail, is not acceptable certainly in the United States, but in other countries, I would suspect. And people should be a little bit hesitant. If you toss a little bit of money and see how it goes, that's cool, but it's your risk to bear, I guess I say. And as such, you should not really expect coverage from me on this. I'll close this out by playing the snippet that I said for Meta Bull Run so you kind of understand where I'm going with this, and then we'll close out on this. And then it gets to the very last page where there's a legal disclaimer, quote unquote, and I want to stress something to you. Anybody can write up a legal disclaimer and put it anywhere they want. It doesn't mean jack, okay? They can say whatever. It doesn't mean jack. It's not enforceable because if it's ultimately illegal, it's not enforceable regardless of what they say to be true. I want to put that out there. So I read a disclaimer, and it's also at the bottom of the page, the same paragraph. And I want to make sure you are clear why I said what I just said. Quote, if you have purchased the token, you agree that you are not purchasing a security or investment. That's a lie. You are purchasing an investment because you are investing in something that has no tangible and thus, by definition, is an investment because you expect a return of some sort. This is a generic definition of investment. That's exactly what it is. They can't tell you it's not an investment. And them trying to tell you it's not an investment is them trying to obfuscate the fact that they might take your money and be okay with it. No, if they try to do that, it's wrong, and they could be held legally liable because by definition is an investment. Now, what it's not is it's not a portion of ownership in any organization because there's no company. That would be true, but you can't say it's not an investment. That's not true. It doesn't make any sense to even say that. And it would have to be a security if there is anything backing it. That means that there's any sort of fiat equivalent value that can be attributed to it, which there is by way of the liquidity pools, that then gets into the realm of securities trading. And there's a kind of fine line where if you went to a court of law, they're probably going to fine for you. So I would ignore that statement. I'm being honest, in my opinion. I would ignore that statement. Quote, the team cannot be held liable for any losses or taxes you may incur. Here's the problem with that statement. Number one, it's a lie because if the loss is due to fraudulent means or those that violate the laws within the country of origin that you are from, then yes, they can be held liable. They don't give a damn what they have to say about it. Yes, you can be held liable because you broke the law in causing those losses. We see that all the time. You cannot just say, hey, it's out of our hands. No, it's in your hands if you broke the law. And by calling it not an investment, you already broke the law. So yes, if it went to a court of law, these guys get nailed. The KYC hopefully would help if it's legit. I just said I hope it's a different org to make sure it's legit. But that's, yeah,